Welcome into another episode of Behind the Mic in the SEC. Today we are joined by Sam Rothman. She works at WATE in Knoxville, Tennessee. How are you today, Sam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So let's just get started. Tell me how you started your career in sports reporting.
Yeah, so I was always just a very loud human, loved chatting it up. And I was a competitive dancer growing up, so I loved, being performing and all of that. And I grew up with a sports crazy dad who just loved sports, wanted to be a sports reporter. So just he wanted to live vicariously through me. So yeah, I just grew up going to games, watching sports all the time. So then that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And then I went to school up in Syracuse and did everything, got involved there with the TV station, radio station, obviously classes and all that, did internships. And then I was a 2020 grad, so it was the worst time ever to graduate and find a job. But so yeah, so it took me a while. But then I ended up in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm from Long Island, went to school in New York, did not think I was going to be in Louisiana. All I knew about Louisiana was New Orleans. I didn't know there were I didn't know anything. Moved there blindly in the middle of the pandemic. But it was awesome and so many different experiences. And then when my contract was up there, I now work at WATE in Knoxville, covering Tennessee. And today's actually my month anniversary. So I'm very new to it, but I'm having a blast so far. And I definitely see the difference in the SEC compared to covering other schools.
And what do you, since you are so new to it, what have you
Mhm.
gotten from the SEC so far? What have you seen from, the fan base, the
Yeah.
competitiveness, and like how is it different from anything else?
Honestly, everything that you just mentioned. So starting with the fan bases, I know I haven't experienced a real football game in Neyland yet, but I went to the spring game and there were 60,000 people there. That is wild to me. That 60,000 people show up for a game that doesn't matter. Like it's wild. And it was like the full game day experience from tailgating and all that. Right now covering a lot of baseball and softball, and I at the school that I covered like Louisiana Tech and Grambling, and Northwestern State, like smaller D1 programs, mid-major programs, and not to the fault of them. It's just a smaller fan base, smaller. It's a smaller school. And they wouldn't have sellouts like this. And if for a midweek game you're having a sellout, the crowd is so into it. Just the environment is awesome. And then from a media perspective, the amount of media that are there. Sometimes I would be the only person, at a press. If you can even call it a press conference, it was me just saying, "Hey, coach, can we chat after the game?" Now there's, a set press conference where there's 10 to 20 media members, and it's so, it just feels like a step up from what I was covering at my last station. And at my last station, let's say if there was a game going on, a lot of our schools were an hour away. So we wouldn't go to everything. Here, if you miss something, no, like that is not that is not happening. We're at every single game. So it's a totally different experience.
And so far, what do you enjoy about it? What have you enjoyed about
Yeah.
covering the SEC, even though it's still very new to you?
Yeah, I just love it. I mean, as a sports fan and all that, it's so fun. The biggest thing I know with my station specifically is we get to stay for full games. I never got to do that at my last station. We would just run, get highlights, and be off to another high school game or another college game. For example, last night, I covered Tennessee baseball. It was a midweek game against Wofford. I get there. I had to shoot before, but usually I would go live before, talking about the matchup. Then I film the entire game. Then I send back highlights. Then I go to post game press conference, and then I do a package for our 11 p.m. newscast. That's just so awesome to me to be able to report on a full game, whereas I really didn't get that experience. And it's just because these games really matter, and you want to cover them to the full extent. Whereas in my other market, because we had so much going on, we weren't able to really focus and dive into one of our teams. We had to kind of give equal coverage to everything and be jumping all around. Now my station is literally 7 minutes from the university, so it's just awesome.
Oh, that's really cool that it's like real convenient. It's like
Oh
that.
yeah, it's literally on the same, like you turn right, you go straight, 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 and then you're on campus. It's crazy. It's a straight shot.
And what would you say has been your favorite sport to cover? I guess throughout your entire career, because
Mhm.
you just got to Knoxville. What would you say is your favorite sport to cover, and what are you excited to cover about Tennessee?
Yeah, so before I got even to Shreveport, my last market, it's still my favorite sport. My favorite sport's hockey. I grew up a diehard New York Rangers fan, RIP to our season. But I'm a big hockey person. I covered a lot. I covered in a minor league hockey team in Syracuse. I worked at MSG my summers for internships, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do hockey. I'm going to do hockey. And then when I was coming out of school, I had a job opportunity in Duluth, Minnesota, which would have been all hockey, or Shreveport, Louisiana. And Shreveport just sounded like the better opportunity for me. And then I would be really diving in. I mean, high school football there is insane. I'm sure you know in Louisiana, it's a totally different experience. So that really opened my eyes and I started falling in love with football. I was a football fan, but I guess I just didn't cover it as much. And even at the high school level, I mean, all these guys are going to schools like Tennessee, LSU, Alabama. So it was really cool to see it at that level. So that was my favorite part about Shreveport here. I love college baseball. So covering Tennessee right now has been awesome. When I got here, they were struggling. They turned it around. So that's been really fun. And I'm going to the SEC tournament in Hoover in 2 weeks, and that'll be like my first big event here. So I'm really excited to cover that. But of course, I'm looking forward to Tennessee football in the fall. I just know that it's going to be a surreal experience for me. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, Tennessee came down to Baton Rouge last fall and
Yes.
completely embarrassed. It was hard, but like you said about Tennessee baseball, LSU like started a little rough, losing the first game of the season, and they turned it around and they were in an SEC championship. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool to see Tennessee be that good. I know they've been on the come up in football in the last couple of years, so that'll be really exciting for you.
Yeah, I'm excited, and it'd be a little different this year. Obviously, there's a lot of changeover, so we'll see what happens. But I'm just really even if they're not good, it's still they're still selling out. It's still getting that excitement. So I'm really excited for it. But yeah.
But what would you say is your biggest accomplishment in your career so far?
My biggest accomplishment. Oh, that's tough. I don't know. I don't really like talking about that kind of stuff. Something that I think something that gets overlooked in this career is moving out on your own and just moving somewhere totally new. If you would have told me when I was in high school or even beginning of college that I would have been living in Shreveport, Louisiana by myself, I think I don't know what I would have said. Like, so I think that I'm just proud of myself, for moving out there and like I miss Shreveport, like I'm making a life there. Career wise, something that sticks out to me is I did an interview with someone who there was a hire at Grambling that people didn't agree with. It was very controversial. And because of my relationships, I was the only media member to get an interview with him. No national networks or anything like that. And I did the interview and it was tough. I got a lot of feedback on both ends. People who thought I wasn't tough enough, people who thought I was too light on him. Why did you do this? Blah, 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 blah. This was a PR stunt. And it was just something that I learned a lot from. And I know that I did a good job, but hearing all that, it's tough. So that was my first time of really hearing that. But it was something that I was proud of, that I was able to, do that interview. And then there was change afterwards that happened after the interview. So that was just cool to see.
And what would you say would be your ultimate career goal?
You know, I, Before it was always to be an NHL team reporter. That's all I ever saw myself doing. Now, honestly, I don't even know. I'm having a really fun time. I mean, I'm only a month in, but I'm having a really fun time doing college. And I enjoyed that at my last station. That's kind of why I wanted to end up in Knoxville because I liked covering college a lot. But I wanted to be really immersed in a team. And I think that's really cool that we get to do that with Tennessee. So I definitely say something where with a team reporter or something like that, where you can really focus on one thing and really get to know the team and do, cool stories on them that not a lot of people know what they're doing, off the field, off the ice, off the court, all that stuff. But Yeah, I still think the dream job would be an NHL team reporter to make, 13-year-old Sam really happy. But yeah, I'm open to a lot of things. I just really enjoy, what I'm doing, and taking it day by day.
And I'm getting ready to graduate and get into the business, and you're not far removed from getting into the business
Mhm.
yourself. So, what advice that you've learned would you give to somebody that's trying to get into the business and is aspiring to do the same things?
Advice. I'm sure it's a tough business. You really have to have a thick skin, for sure. But I know going to LSU, you learn all that, through your classes and what the industry is like. But for me, I don't be afraid to go somewhere. Don't be afraid to try new things. I could have taken the easy route. I could have went to Duluth, Minnesota, and I could have covered hockey, which I was comfortable with. But instead, I made a jump, and I don't think I would have ended up here without making that jump. You know what I mean? So I just think it's so cool in this career that it is, really hard to do, but it's so cool that we get these experiences where you get to move out on your own and really, self reflect and grow as a person. The growth that you do is crazy. So that would be my advice, is just to not, if you see something, oh, I don't know if I want to move, here, well, just try it out. And I know it's cliche and everyone says, don't say no to things, but I really deep heartedly agree with that. To always try, go out of the box, because that's how you're going to grow. And then, sure, you've heard this, the biggest thing is relationships. I got this job because of a relationship. I was applying everywhere out of Shreveport, and I was not hearing back from places. And so my boss, it's kind of confusing. So my boss that I had in Shreveport, he was my sports director, but he worked under a guy named Tim. Now, Tim used to be sports director in Shreveport. Tim moved to Knoxville. Tim just moved back to Shreveport, so a job opens up in Knoxville, and that's how I got it. And it was because of I had never even talked with him in person, but because Tim worked at my station and he knew, and I had good relationships with everyone at my station, they were able to vouch for me. So that's the biggest thing, is the relationships. And the people that you go to school with right now are going to be people that you're asking about jobs. Like, I'm trying to help some of my friends, and I'm like, oh, my friends here, my friends there, I can help you. And that's the other day I needed, for the draft, one of our guys went to Detroit, and I needed his his press conference after being drafted. One of my friends now works with Detroit Lions. We couldn't get it. I was like, oh, just reach out to him. So I texted him, hey, can you get it? Had it to me in 5 minutes. That's the biggest thing in this industry, is just the relationships. You never know who's going to be able to help you and all of that. So that's my advice. Don't say no to things, and relationships are key. It's kind of cliche, but honestly, when people told me that in college, I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. But it really is the biggest thing. So that would be it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us on Behind the Mic in the
No problem.
SEC. Tune in next time. We'll round out this series and we'll talk about Vanderbilt University.